Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
What's up, folks? My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your Fall Obsession Podcast host, back for another Monday morning episode with you guys. Our podcast is driven by Ridge Rock Hunt Company and our friends over there, and I'll talk more about them toward the end of our episode here. Joining me this week, we have a new guest on our podcast, actually a lady from one of our newest partners here at Fall Obsession, Raylene Proto from Ditale Outdoors. Welcome to the podcast, Raylene.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So your company, and I know we've gotten to know each other a little bit and learn about the brand and everything here recently, but your company is new in the industry, or relatively so.
Yes.
So the perfect, and I told you this just a few minutes ago, the perfect icebreaker is tell us not only who you guys are, but where this name came from.
Ditale actually came from my great-grandmother. We're Sicilian, so it's actually her maiden name. And she was a really interesting woman. She was a foundling, which is mainly, that means like you're given up for adoption. So there's kind of a long story that goes with that. But she survived like the Mencia earthquake in Sicily. And she had a twin brother who did not survive. And she wasn't adopted till she was about 16. And it's kind of like their version of adoption, which is more so like foster care, where they kind of pitched it, the government being they, pitched it to families of Sicily. If you have a farm, which a majority of Sicily is agriculture, then you can get a kid and we'll throw you some money and you have extra help on your farm. So that's kind of what happened with her. Then she met my grandfather along the way and they had an olive farm. And when they were in their mid-20s and had 3 children, they decided that it was time to leave Sicily and come to America. So my grandfather came first, leaving my grandma with all 3 kids and a farm to run by herself. And then a year later, she joined him. And so that's kind of where the name kind of came from, was paying homage to her.
Very interesting. Very cool. You don't hear many stories behind a name or a brand that are like that. So that's very unique. Tell us what the brand is. What do you folks do?
So we are a female-driven hunting company. So we make gear for women. We are kind of unique in this space. We've been in business for about 2.5 years now. So we have sizes ranging from extra small to 3X, both in a regular and a curvy fit. So we're the first in the industry to bring that size range and that unique sizing structure. And we're also bringing fabrics and technologies from other industries into the hunting space to give better performance and durability while women are in the field.
Gotcha. So when you talk about I understand the fit and everything, and wanting to make sure that this product is designed specifically for women to have the best product possible in the field. But when you start talking about the fabrics and the materials that y'all are using, go into that a little bit for us and tell us a little bit about what makes your products different.
So we do have, especially with our base layers, which you got to see at Hunter's Extravaganza, they're definitely different than anything that's in the market. We use a recycled nylon and polyester with a hemp component that actually has its own patent. And that actually acts as, when you blend everything together with the technology and how it's working, is that it actually does temperature regulating. So it heats you up or cools you down instead of you having that base layer underneath. And sometimes you get hot during the day. I had a lot of women when we did our customer discovery and spoke to our community that were like, I have to strip in the middle of the day. So like that doesn't work.
Right.
So it wicks you. It kind of acts like this really interesting like air conditioning component underneath your garment, and it also keeps you warm when it starts to, temperatures start to switch and you start to get cold. So you can actually have it underneath you all day long and not have to get undressed or change. And then when you're done with your hunt, you can take your stuff off and just have those on and be really comfortable. So that's one thing that we're bringing. It also has lots of compression in it, and they're seamless, so it fits any body type, which that's one of the big things that we're about, is making sure that every size is covered in this industry. So being able to bring that seamless technology into this space, we can actually kind of like blanket our size range and then some when we go to grow further.
Gotcha. Very cool. So how long have y'all been working on this?
The base layers or everything in general?
The whole brand, putting all this together and getting you guys to the point that you're at right now.
So 2.5 years. So we started 2.5 years ago. My co-founder, Audrey Young, and I, we were the two first co-founders. We interviewed hundreds of women in this space to see what they needed and what they wanted and what they didn't like, and very in-depth conversations. We kind of feel like she's our best friend. We know what she eats for dinner. It's kind of like that. We're really that close with our customer. So along the way, we acquired Summer Meyer, who has about 20 plus years of technical design experience in the tactical and outdoor world. So we once we got her, it was kind of off to the races, where she took all that data really, and it was the one that started helping us create the product and turning into what it is today. So 2.5 years of work. We finally have actual product that dropped in the warehouse this year. We had sales samples that we were doing pre-sales with, and we have our base layers. Very soon, we'll have our performance tops, our quarter zips, and then adding to that collection as well next year.
Awesome. So I'm jumping around a little bit between product development and history, I feel like, but what made y'all want to do this? Because this is just a huge thing to jump in and do, and obviously, as you mentioned, 2.5 years and still moving forward. It's a journey, but I mean, you're talking a lot of research, a lot of product development, a lot of money. What was the motivating factor between just driving this journey?
So it really started with myself. So I could probably back up and I've been in either upland hunting with my dad since I was probably about 3, all the way to in the last few years becoming a big game hunter. So stepping out of that upland and actually getting out more so in the field, and being extremely frustrated with the gear that I had access to, and nothing ever fit me right. I'm petite in the sense of I'm short. I'm barely 5'4". When I say 5'4", my whole team argues that I'm 5'4". They're like, she's 5'3" 3/4", but she rounds up. So I'm really short and I have a short torso. And I'm also really curvy. So what's out there for women's gear just it wasn't working. I'd have to either use my dad's hand-me-downs, which those never fit me correctly anyways, and I've been doing that since I was a kid.
We've all been there.
So majority of my gear, one of my first times out was men's gear from Bass Pro, and I was still pulling out my pants crawl over logs, and it was such a pain that a couple years ago, 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, I really sat down and thought about that and was like, I can't be the only woman having this problem. And I knew a few other women that hunted. So actually starting to talk to them and really get introduced to other women that hunt, which turned into this whole spiral of interviewing and having this huge community of, now 3,000 plus women that we talk to, and gaining that I'm not the only one out there, that we all feel this way. And they're from the super petite woman all the way to the tall, curvy, thin, you name it. It was just this huge problem that no one was really trying to address. And we really wanted to be, I really wanted to be the person. I had someone say, well, why not you? And I was like, why not me? So let's jump in and try it out. So I was very fortunate enough to have a girlfriend that started a business, and I took her to lunch and kind of chatted with her about her process. And she introduced me to the CEO of One IE in Riverside, California. And One IE specializes in basically launching startups. They're kind of like this incubator accelerator. I talked to their CEO, and he was like, I'm on board. I'll come in. I'll be your chairman. I'll help you build a team. And then when I asked him why, like, our biggest thing when anyone wants to join our team is, why do you want to join our team? And he said, I'm an outdoorsman and I have a daughter. And that was pretty much enough for me to know that he understands the space and also understands her frustrations as well.
Right.
So once we started working with them, and I worked with him to build out an incredible team. There's more of us now, so that's really incredible. Yeah, it's been off to the races like ever since.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So when you talk about developing and testing these products and getting that journey going, I don't want you to give away any big secrets if there, yeah, anything crazy if there is, but what have been some of the, on the flip side of it, what have been some of the hurdles and the big things that y'all have had to overcome?
Obviously finding factories that were willing to work with a really small brand and to give us, small minimum quantities to order. We unfortunately, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do this, but when we started with the Sophia Adventure pant, the technology that's all in that pant, along with the fabric that it's created with, there wasn't anyone on the US side that knew how to work with that fabric. So we had to move it offshore to Vietnam. However, our base layers, we were very fortunate with to find a factory in North Carolina that can make that to kind of start our US line. So wanting to create things here was a little bit of a challenge. There's also the cost effect, right? So it's like if I make like the Sophia pant here, that Sophia pant was going to be like $400. And that was something we didn't want. We wanted it to be an attainable aspiration for women, not just like, these are rad, but you're going to be 400 deep. And then who's going to buy that? So we really were looking at that average blue collar women hunter, that we wanted to ensure that we were giving her affordable gear, but not just affordable gear that can perform.
Right.
So that was like some of the hurdles. Also, when you're building out your team, sometimes finding people the right fit, that's always a challenge. So we've had a few. We had a co-founder come and go. We've had some teammates as well that we lost along the way that just weren't, frankly, working out over time. So there's that. Your team is extremely important. One of the number one reasons why startups fail is because of the team. It's not because of the lack of funding. So us as the three co-founders and our board, we now have a board of 5 board members that we report to. They understand that importance as well. So us 3 original co-founders are very open and deep with each other with conversation to keep that going. And then we also find amazing people that are out there that wanted to join our team that just meshed well with us and really, really understood, our value prop and our mission. So we've been, fortunate with that. Also, timing and production as well, because it takes a long time to make something. So it can take up to a year. So you have, a few, 6 to 8 weeks for fabric to be made. And then you have your whole process from there of a prototype and then adjusting the prototype, getting a sales sample, and kind of messing with it once you get the sales sample, because that's when you really get to see what it looks like, and you still get to make some changes. But the whole from start to finish of a process of one of our garments takes a year. So that's, sometimes could be a little taxing, but once you know your roadmap and once you know the timing, if you time everything correctly, it goes pretty seamlessly sometimes. And then we have logistics right now. Everyone is facing that at this time where you're told you're going to get your products in 4 weeks, and 8-9 weeks later, things are dropping into your warehouse and you're like, cool, that was late. But luckily we have an amazing community that understands we're a startup and that, there's hurdles right now to jump. And anytime we send an update out on what's going on with product, we haven't to this day, knock on wood, we haven't had someone ask for a refund. Everybody has been very patient. So it's been a really good experience so far.
Very cool. Now, what do you guys have or have coming soon as far as different camos or color options, or what's the variety look like from that? Because I know that plays a big part in, like you said, that production time, and you're talking different fabrics and now potentially different colors. Where's all that at?
So right now you can get the Sophia in our Strata Camo. We have a partnership with True Timber. They're amazing. We're going to add to that camo line. So we're going to be getting Kanati, which is kind of that woodsy look that was actually requested by our Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania girl, where she was like, I love this, but I need this. And so we're pulling that in. So that's an extra camo that we're adding. Maybe even a prairie. We're still kind of doing our discovery on that to see if that's what we're going to do. But we will also have black available. That's been a huge color ask. Has been black and a gray. So we'll be adding to that. And then our tops will also kind of reflect that same. We've been asked for solids and camos. So we're really trying to make sure that we bring those requests to market for her. Gotcha.
Very cool. So what's the next? I know you said that you have some upper layers and stuff that are coming in the very near future, and that's exciting. What's the the next big hurdle or the next big thing that y'all have coming up aside from that?
In our product roadmap, we're going to start working on young ladies. So fitting that little tween area. Right now, she can fit into our extra small, but we want to make sure that we're not just having someone that can fit an extra small, but we can kind of cover that whole base. So it's taking the adult line and looking at how we're going to make that young ladies, and then making sure that she needs all those features that are in there. She may not need everything that's in there. So maybe paring it down or adding a few things to it to meet her needs.
Awesome. Well, it's really cool. And I know, as you alluded to earlier, we met at the Trophy Hunter Extravaganza this past August and made that connection and have been working to get something worked out ever since, and looking at outfitting some of our ladies on our Fall Obsession staff now to represent y'all's products and everything and help y'all out, because I think it's such a cool thing that y'all are doing that not a lot of folks are other brands are. Like, you can look at another camo company or clothing manufacturer and they might have a women's line, but y'all, the amount of research and time that y'all have put into this is so much more in depth that I can only imagine a far superior product, and I know that's the goal. So
yeah, and that research continues. So that's something that we don't stop. We don't stop talking to our community. We don't stop, getting that information to build that superior product. Which it's important to us. It's important to be really close to her, and also give her resources that she wants as well. Like, we heard across the board how many times other women wanted to meet other women. Like, they love hunting with their families and they think it's great, and sometimes they go out by themselves to get a break from husbands and kids, but they want to have girls' weekends. They want to have girls' camping trips. They want to be able to plan a trip and go to Colorado and do elk hunting. And so we did develop a Facebook group community that's private, and it is monitored to ensure that the people that are in there are safe and kind. And we've had, I don't know how many women do meetups from there, and there's over 3,000 plus women and young ladies in there that have made friends and have gone on family camping trips together and really amazing things. Ask questions. Lots of new hunters in there that are like, this is my first year. Here's where I'm at. What do you recommend? So lots of, gear questions, how to get tags, where should I go? And then everybody pitches in and, talks to them about that. And we kind of leave everyone alone. We let them do their thing. We do monitor it to make sure that nothing crazy is going on. And we do update on product and things like that, but it's not really for a sales feature. It's really just to give them the space that they've asked for and that they've wanted. So we've provided that.
That's very cool. The fact that y'all are community driven behind all of it as well is very encouraging to us, because that aligns with kind of our message and what we're trying to do on our end as well. Because our staffer programs, for example, we have all these folks across the country that represent us and contribute to our media production content and everything, but at the same time there's an underlying family aspect of all that too. And we have in the last year really, we've gone to some pretty some much more detailed structuring to try and give them as much resources locally to try and do those meetups and have that interaction and everything. And on the ladies specifically, I know on our podcast, if any of our listeners are returning and have listened to episodes recently, they'll know that we've had a lot of ladies, some our own and some guests, come on the podcast lately talking about, some women in the hunting industry. And I don't think it was until we started having these guest after guest after guest, some are just your everyday ladies who wouldn't have an outlet to share any information if we didn't have them on the podcast, and others are higher up in the hunting industry. But anywhere in between all that, there's always this there's always been this level of just I don't want to say frustration, but how do I get into it? How do I get into hunting, and what is there for me? Kind of a question mark, if you will. And so it's been really interesting to hear their perspectives and hear their journeys on how they got into hunting in the outdoors and how they have progressed through that as well. Because I don't think consciously for me, I really realized the big hurdle that it is for some, coming into an industry like this. So
yeah, it's really incredible, especially being in the group personally and kind of watching and reading and speaking to some of them as well. Were a lot of women, and I kind of had, I don't want to say I had a biased opinion of this, but I grew up doing this. I was very fortunate enough to have a dad who, I'm an only child, had like no bias towards, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a boy or a girl, like you're going to learn how to do these things. He had a reason. It was a great reason. But a lot of women that we were talking to said, like, I didn't get started till college. And that's when I met my now husband, but at the time was my boyfriend, always had an interest in it, never had a family that hunted, but thought like it would be something good to do. And then met him, and then he took her out for the first time. And then after that was like off to the races. Yeah. So a lot of women in their 20s, or even in their like 18, 19, getting off and starting off. My niece just started today. So I told you we were taking her out. Yeah. Earlier this morning. And she's 14. So she just got her hunter safety. We took her out there today. Her dad had his rifle and I had my bow, and she was like, I kind of want to do what she does. I'm like, we'll get there. Just like, let's baby step it up and just kind of get her out there for the first time. So, mentorship is huge. Even in our own community. So it's really good that we built one. I'm really happy that we built one, and we get to provide women with that.
Yeah, that is very cool. Like I said, very, very encouraging for us, especially with kind of our awareness and drive that we've put some focus on here lately on our podcast specifically. So very, very cool. So that's kind of a good segue as well, because I wanted to kind of transfer the second part of our conversation today over to you specifically, and how you got into hunting. And I know you just mentioned that it started when you were young with your dad and everything. And but what are your main hunting experiences growing up, or where? Don't have to give away your secret hiding spots or anything, but where do you hunt?
So I'm currently in Southern California. So I live in Norco. Right now I'm in Phelan, California at my mom's. So this is where I grew up, was the high desert of California. One day I'll leave, I promise. It's been a transitional year. So it's been a really interesting year over here in the Proto household. So I grew up here in the desert of California, and like I said, primarily it was upland. So your pheasant, your quail, your dove. My dad started me off at, I was a bird dog for a while. I think every kid starts off that way if their parent is an upland hunter. Yeah. So you're a bird dog for a few years. And I think I'm trying to remember. I know some of my early memories are more so of like fishing with my dad. I was recently told that I was out in the woods before I could walk. My dad had this like red like backpack. He would put me in like a backpacker's pack and just kind of like trot me around when he was glassing or scouting or anything like that. But I think from the time I was like 4, I was out there with the dog or before the dog and my dad and being the dog. When we were 7 is when we got a bird dog. And I was like, I really want to learn how to work the dog. He's like, cool, here's a quail call and let me show you how to kind of do this. And so then my job became calling in the birds and working the dog. And he took me to class with him. So that way I could learn and run the dog in class. And it just became kind of like a second nature thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of really how I got started. And then he would take me with him. So I would work the dog, call in the birds. And as soon as I got old enough to do hunter safety and all of that, then it was, okay, like, here's your shotgun, let's go type of thing. So upland for a very long time. I was also a competitive archer. So when I was 9 is when I got my first bow, and I competed a lot, and I didn't hunt with it. It was mainly just competing in 3Ds and field, some indoor. And I still do that from time when I have time.
Yeah.
From time to time, once in a while. I did a tournament last weekend, and I think that was my first tournament all year long. And we're in, wrapping up and going into November. So that should tell you how really I've been. But really, so I went to college and then kind of, I don't want to say stopped hunting, but it's just I was in school and was trying to concentrate on that and get a job and do those things. And then really was kind of like contemplating doing big game and then decided like, I'm just going to put in for a deer tag and like see what happens.
Yeah.
So, got two deer tags for our local mountain areas here in San Bernardino and LA area. And that's county. That's not like going into LA City for people who are like LA, but just the county, which branches off into a beautiful mountain range that we have over here in San Dimas area, and then trickles off behind into the Wrightwood area, which is very close to where I grew up and where I'm sitting now. So we hunt those areas, also over to Big Bear, which is a really awesome place. My favorite place is the Mojave National Preserve, which is out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. And everyone's like, there's deer there. I'm like, there's bighorn sheep there. There's deer. There's mountain lions. There's all kinds of cool stuff out there. But at night, it's pitch black dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face. It's incredible. And the stars are just, it's like this blanket of Milky Way. It's hot and really cold. So you get a huge fluctuation in temperature.
Yeah.
But it's like the terrain is unbelievably hard. It looks like it's very easy until you get out and you start trucking up a mountain or something and you get a quarter of a way up and you're like, this was not a good idea. We should have not done this. But there's massive deer out there, and you have to be very careful and keep an eye on your onyx while you're out there, or whatever map you use, because you can easily trickle over into Arizona or Nevada. So we're kind of in like this little pocket that like sits against the state lines. But yeah, so as far as areas of here, that's where I go. I also go out to Kansas and also to Missouri. I do have friends out there, but I fly out and we do a duck hunt. I'm getting ready to do a pheasant hunt out there. So yeah, I go fly out and meet up with the girls and have a good time out there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed whenever, on the rare occasion it seems for me personally, that I get to talk with somebody who hunts or has hunted in California. Because I know that there's it's different than Texas, where I'm from, for sure, as far as licensing and tag goes and stuff. But it wasn't really until last year we did a veteran giveaway hunt here in Texas, and the veteran that we brought out here was from Northern California and had hunted up there that's where he got into hunting, been hunting up there for almost a decade. And it was just very interesting to learn from him, like the hunting opportunities that are there in California, or like you said, deer or sheep or, all these other things that are there. Cause I know California is a very beautiful state, but I don't think that for those who aren't there, they don't really ever think about the wildlife aspect of California. So
No, they really, really don't. It is pretty here. It's very, very pretty here. I'm very blessed to have mountains all of a 45-minute drive from me. Not a lot of people have that.
right.
A quick, like 6 to 8 hour drive. I'm central to Northern California. Yeah, and my AO tag is good in just about every area during like general season, which is rifle season. So if I'm just with my bow, I can practically hunt the whole state if I chose to do so. This is my first year doing predator, so I have a bear tag. I'll be going out in a couple of weeks with
Awesome.
some of my dad's friends. So that's going to be interesting. Never done bear before. But we also almost lost our bear season this year too, just due to
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so it was luckily there's a lot of organizations, one of which I'm part of, which is CBH, where our legislation committee and other organizations' legislation committees got together and on the phone and basically pleaded our case on why we do need the bear season and why the science behind that is actually correct, not incorrect, as others were stating. And we kind of won that battle. So we do keep a close eye on legislation going around here and in Washington to protect everyone's rights, not just archers' rights, but also your firemen as well.
Yeah. Yeah, not to make it about politics or conservation or anything like that, but I am very grateful for organizations that that monitor that kind of stuff and are ready to step up to the plate when needed to protect those hunters and conservation rights and all that kind of stuff. So and I'll leave it at that for now. But for our listeners, we are about to have some content on our pages more specifically about that, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. So more to come on that from Fall Obsession at least. But so what as we kind of head toward the end of our time here, what are some of your more memorable hunts that stand out throughout the course of your life?
Oh gosh. Your first deer is always rad. That's always like the best. And in California, it's not easy to get a deer. If people are wondering why I harvested a deer at the age of 40. Because actually, no, 39, because it's hard. So that definitely was an incredible moment. I shared it with my dad, so that was, unbelievable. I lost him this year, so I lost my dad this year. So obviously, just about every memory I have is extremely special because it's anything that revolves around him, of course. So. Yeah, my buck up in Vincent's Gulch was an incredible experience. It also taught me the importance of shot placement with my bow and how everything can change in an instant. I had like the perfect shot, and as I released, he stepped forward, so it ended up being a gut shot instead of that heart-lung shot that you really want.
Right.
And then an all-day chase, which was just so heart-wrenching for me because I don't, none of us want them to suffer, obviously. So let's just say after that, I was very, very, very diligent about thinking and planning ahead for just about any type of, something that goes wrong. Not that it went wrong. It's just, it was a longer, it took longer than it should have, is kind of how I felt. And I couldn't get an extra shot on him because he was running ridges like crazy. He definitely gave me a run for my money for sure. And anytime I could stop and try, something was in the way of a bush or a rock or something. And by the end of the day, we had to just like leave him overnight, which I was terrified of doing, because you think about everything. I was like, what if a coyote gets him? What if a bear gets him? It was just this whole thing, a very sleepless night.
Yeah.
You're just laying there, hoping that when you come back that they're there. So luckily the next morning when we went up, like he was right where we left him. So that was a good thing, but also, like I said, an experience alone where I was like, got to work on shot placement. Good to know.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun one. And I've also had great hunts where you don't harvest anything at all and you just have the best time. I had a great time with the girls from Wilderness last year in Kansas when we went on our duck hunt. Didn't get a damn thing, but it was just the best time at the blinds and snacks were flowing. And it was just great just to sit there and just camaraderie with one another. Those are always fun. The best moments around the campfire, obviously, and and duck blinds are good.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad those last two scenarios or stories that you shared that you did share them, because one, as unfortunate as a prolonged pursuit of an animal like that, especially an overnight one, can be, and how just I always tell folks, you have never hunted unless you have felt that gut-wrenching feeling inside. That's just that's an unfortunate part of it, and doesn't matter who you are or where you hunt, we've all been there. It's just like I said, it's part of it. So I'm grateful for you sharing it, because now a lot of people are hesitant to share experiences like that, but you learn from it. So
to dig more into it, like I released my arrow like at 7:30, and we didn't back off of him until. And now we did give him time, so don't think it was like from 7:30 on, like that's what we did. No, we backed off. We in between giving him like another 30 minutes, another 45, an hour. Like we did do that, but we didn't back off the mountain until like 4:00 in the afternoon. And the only reason why we did that is because the sun was starting to set. There was snow. It was cold. I was like sitting there, like just starting to shiver, and I was literally just sitting there with my binoculars on my face for probably a good hour and 45 minutes, just watching him. And he finally bedded down, and he was standing there. We were like, he's contemplating over the next ridge. And if he goes over the next ridge, like I'm going to lose him, because we just knew with daytime, the daylight was running out. And I think it's important to share those too. Not everything is perfect. You can plan everything out to the T and be extremely experienced, and it still happens. I cried in the car, and my dad was like, stop crying, you know what this is about. But then he felt awful, like when we got home, because he was like, you're upset because you were like, what if I just wounded him? And I was like, exactly. Like, what if that's what all it was? And I couldn't get another shot off. So that's, it's emotional, and it's awful. The celebration is wonderful, but you still, there's all that. It's very emotional. And I think people that don't understand hunting don't understand that, where we're not just out there just for blood, guts, and glory. We're feeding our families. It's important to us. And we honor that animal, we respect it, and we don't want it to suffer. It's, why we prepare the way we prepare to get out there. Yeah,
it is. It's 100%. The word emotional is very appropriate. It's 100% a emotional connection between hunter and animal in that extent. It's.
I think the coolest thing was, and this brought a lot of things into perspective, is that when we were the next morning, like walking up to the deer, my dad kind of kicked back, and he was like, go, like approach him, like go up to him. And I like kneeled down, and he's like, run your hands through him. And so I like did that and was like touching his antlers. He's like, you are the first person to touch that animal. Yeah. And it's like, you're just like, wow, like that's, it dawns on you right then and there. Like, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's definitely, yeah.
If you don't stop and think about those things, you just, I don't know, so much is lost. You have to. And if people don't, they ain't doing it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I took my son for the first time. He's 9, scouting with me a few weeks ago. And he got a little too loud, which kids do. But it was just he's loud in general. He's a boy. They make a noise. Yep. He spotted a doe and 2 fawn before I did. And he got all excited, and I was like, calm down. Like, what do you see? And he's like, there's a mommy with 2 babies. And I'm like, okay. And I kind of glassed over there, and I was like, oh, crap. like, yeah, I was like, I'm proud of you. That's, that's a big find. So,
Yeah.
so quickly, and him learning like how to use the binoculars, and whatnot. But I'm going to try to take him out this year. We'll see what happens. But the scouting is like good because you don't have to worry about taking another hunter off or blowing your cover.
Yeah.
You have a little with you. But I remember like, oh God, like my first quail, my first dove, where my dad was like, go pick it up and like hold it and touch it. And I plan to do the same thing with him, and he's already ready to. He really wants to go bird hunting, but he'll be a dog for a while, so it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Got to earn his keep. Got to start where everybody else started.
I started that way. I mean, come on, man.
Oh man.
Yeah. So passing it on, it's important. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said too about the some of the most memorable hunts are the hunts where you don't kill anything. I 100% agree. One of my top experiences is just that. It was in Montana, and I ate a tag sandwich, but I wouldn't trade the week I was up there for the world. It was amazing. So that was
definitely last season with my dad, which was probably our funnest. And we were out in the Mojave National Preserve, which is also known for a D17. If anyone is from California wondering where in the hell I'm talking about, it's D17 on the map. And we decided to hike up. It's called New York Mountain. And it was my idea. And apparently it wasn't the best one because I was told about a quarter of a way up. Turned around and I got this wasn't a good idea. I'm like, oh, sorry. But just terrain, just full of cactus, and it's like, don't fall. You're gonna fall into cactus. I probably should have thought it out a lot better. I'll be honest with you. But we made it. It took us a while. But we got to the top, and it was just gorgeous. Just juniper trees, just throughout like the whole desert, and it was phenomenal. I didn't get a damn thing that week, but it was just, we hunted hard. I think probably the hardest we've hunted in a while. But yeah, like it doesn't matter to me. And I was told this too, getting ready to go on this bear hunt. Like, I can't guarantee you anything, but I've got a spot and there's been activity. So I'm just going to like drop you off there and hope the best, type of thing. But, I said it, to, my dad's friend Brad. I was like, it doesn't matter. What matters is we just have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all that matters to me, is that we have a good time. Yes, I would love to harvest something and bring it home, and that's great. I love to fill my freezer, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure. So I got two more questions for you before we wrap it up, and these questions about the favorite memories, and these last two, they're questions we ask every first time guest on our podcast.
Okay.
But what are some of your top bucket list hunts that you haven't gotten to do yet?
Oh, there's so many. Oh man, I want to do a snow goose hunt, and I was just invited on one, and I had to decline. So that was like heart wrenching. Of like, oh, I won't be able to make it. But it was like, want to do this? Like, I can't. It's either one or the other, and I already had one already planned.
So you say that, I guarantee you, our staff manager Todd, he listens to every podcast. I'm sure his wheels are turning right now because we're doing a snow goose hunt in the spring. So we'll talk later. So
okay,
if you're interested. So
if it doesn't interfere with a show, then we have a jam-packed show schedule for spring. So if it doesn't interfere, I'm in. I'm in. That's kind of why I had to say no to this one.
Yeah.
Because I already had something planned for December, and I was like, I can't do both. It's not going to work out. So definitely snow goose. Elk is one of that I think everybody wants if they haven't done it yet. And I unfortunately just didn't have, I didn't pull an elk tag here in California, so that was disappointing. But just didn't have the time to plan to do something in Colorado or any other place this year, because we've been a little busy.
Yeah.
To say the least. But if I had a chance to pick anything, I would probably say moose in Alaska would be rad. And I will be toting around a fly rod with me on that as well. So, those would probably be the top three right now.
those are.
I won't bore you and rattle off like the rest, but well,
No,
that.
everybody asks the question to 9 times out of 10, their reaction is just what yours was. Oh, there's so many,
there's
and yeah, I mean, every hunter's a dreamer, so it's it's always looking for the next adventure or what's next. So, and oftentimes, sometimes, I'll use our marketing director Drew as an example. He had a bucket list hunt of an axis deer. He's from Minnesota, and he wanted to kill an axis deer down here in Texas or in the South somewhere. And this past summer, he shot his axis. He got to go on his hunt and fulfill that dream. And I asked him, I was like, so how's it feel to fill your bucket list out? And he's like, I don't know if I checked one off or I just added another thing I'm gonna have to go back and do again. So
that's exactly right. Yeah, we're very fortunate enough. Our marketing board member, her and her husband own an outfitter out in South Africa, and one of the first things she said was, "Would you ladies like to come to?" She couldn't even get it out, and I was like, "Yes, yes," is my answer. When is the question? But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just adds, like, you can't. Yep.
It's just another obsession for sure.
I know.
All right, so my last question is one that I've asked several ladies here within recent episodes and everything, but it's always advice related, and I'll ask what big piece of advice do you have for ladies out there who are wanting to get into hunting more or get into the outdoors more, and just don't really know what that next step is, what that big jump is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I won't plug our Facebook group, but if you want to, it's called Women Who Hunt, and it has like the Ditale logo on it. But get into some Facebook groups. Women are dying to help other women grow in this community, and ask all the questions you can ask. No question is dumb. The one you don't ask is dumb, is kind of how I put it.
Yep.
Someone is willing to help you. If you're uncomfortable asking a gentleman, ask your fellow women. They will help you. I promise you. We are a kind community, and we just want to bring more women into the sport and nourish them. I also have, and you'll build your own little community, which is great. And I have my own. I have gentlemen I can ask questions, too. And YouTube is a great resource if you want to learn how to fletch your own arrows or questions about gear. There are also amazing women online that you can follow too that are more than happy to answer questions as well, whether it's on Instagram or on Facebook. I'll say on Instagram, Pink Shares, she's one of them, Shrenda Burt. She will answer whatever question you have under the sun, including myself. So you're more than welcome to find me and ask me, but get into Facebook groups. There's so many of them on Facebook that are kind and wonderful, and they just want you to succeed. So they'll help you in any way that they can. I promise you that. And if they're local, if you find someone that's local to you, they will meet up with you and help you out. Also, I will kind of follow that up with if you want to do firearms and you're not you have no experience with that, there's ranges out there that give incredible classes. Some of them are women driven as well, or you can do private lessons if you're more comfortable with that. If you're more comfortable learning from a woman, ask them if they have a woman instructor that's willing to show you how to work your rifle, how to work your shotgun. They're all out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Very good. Well, before we conclude and I give my closing spiel, tell folks how they can find you or the company, where they can order, all that kind of stuff.
All the fun stuff?
Yeah.
You can find me personally on Instagram at Artemis Takes Aim. And you can find Ditale on Instagram at Ditale Outdoors. We're also on Facebook at Ditale Outdoors. And you can go to ditaleoutdoors.com to check out the company and our gear and what we have coming up.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, folks, make sure that you guys go check them out, follow them on social media, and the incredible journey that they're going on right now. And then for us at Fall Obsession, as we wrap it up, if you haven't already, whatever podcast platform you're streaming on, hit that follow and subscribe button. We're on all major podcast platforms. We also are streaming on Carbon TV and Waypoint TV now. So be sure you go check us out on there. Our podcast videos are on our YouTube channel, and we drop multiple new YouTube videos a week on there. Not just our podcast, but also educational content and some of our other hunting and media series. Texas Dirt is another one of those that's near and dear to my heart. That's our whitetail management series that we're filming right now down here in Texas. We're filming season 2. So that's on YouTube and Carbon TV as well. You guys can stream it on there. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, go wild. Go follow us on those platforms. Check us out online at fallobsession.com. That's where you can find all of our hunting and outdoor content, our video series, educational articles, gear reviews, wild game recipes, podcast, all that kind of stuff. Hunting season is here. The weather's getting colder. I'm rocking our blackout hoodie on the podcast video here, and our beanies are also available on our store right now. So be sure you head on over and get some warmer Fall Obsession gear if you haven't already. And last but not least, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is the podcast partner. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi, they run a awesome service booking hunts with vetted and trusted outfitters across the country. Derek is one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, and he works with hunters to find something that works for them in their budget, in their timeline, all that good stuff. So head on over and check out Ridge Rock Hunt Company if you want some help booking your next adventure with a trusted outfitter. So, Raylene, thank you again. I'm excited to see where the brand goes. Excited to be working with you guys and partnering with you guys, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you back on the podcast as well at some point in the near future. So
That'd be great.
All right, guys, thank you all for listening, and we'll be back again next Monday for another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We will catch you then.